One of the mistakes that many small business owners, startup founders, solopreneurs make when hiring as they scale is letting their immediate overwhelm dictate who they're going to hire. We often focus on hiring to fill a position only to realize later that, you know what, the person we brought on just wasn't right. They're an employee who needs constant supervision. They're struggling to adapt. They fail to take ownership, and they don't understand how our strategy is building towards our vision. And this leads to a great deal of frustration, stagnation, and it leads to a great deal of burnout for leaders who find themselves micromanaging instead of focusing on growth. I'm the Chief Rhydler. My name is Dr. David Leitner, and I'd like you to riddle me this. I seem like the perfect fit, yet soon you'll see. Without direction, I drain energy. I wait for instructions. I need your commands. You hired for skills. I'm full of demands. What am I? Now, I'll answer that later on in the video, and I'd love to see your answers in the comments. Welcome to the Doctor's Den. Hiring is a huge challenge when we are scaling a business. How do you know that the person is a good fit? How do you make sure they have the skills that they need? What is it that you need to do in order to make sure that you will be hiring a good team player? Now, perhaps the most important thing we could ask is, how is the person that you're going to hire, how are you going to make sure that that person is going to help you manifest your vision? But I believe that hiring can be different. What if we could build teams that run smoothly and adapt and take our businesses further than we could possibly imagine? Well, that's exactly what I'd like to try and cover today. Now, before we begin, I want to make something very, very clear. I am not an HR person. This video is coming from a different focus. It's coming from a mindset of hiring from a leadership angle. And yeah, I'll talk about some of the metrics you might want to focus on. But to my mind, hiring isn't just about finding someone who can do the job today. It's about hiring for vision for tomorrow. And a great hire will be valuable almost no matter where you place them, because they have the ability to grow into new roles or with their role. Now, sometimes you have to hire specialists. You have to. And that's great. But when we're scaling, sometimes hiring someone who can wear multiple hats makes more sense. Now, I know a lot of people who've often thought of hiring as sort of like filling gaps. But when we scale, it's something so much bigger. We're literally building our support team and the support system that's supposed to grow with us. And if we get it right, we're not just filling positions. We're creating a team, a workforce that takes our vision and boosts it further than we could possibly imagine. So today, I want to explore how hiring the right way can help fuel long-term growth and why it's critical, especially as we're starting to scale successfully. So how do you hire in a sustainable, scalable growth way? We're going to talk about things like identifying great hires, but not from the normal perspective. We're going to talk about giving employees agency from the moment you're interviewing them. We're going to talk about how we build teams that operate independently, and how hiring for efficiency and responsibility so that you get results is much more important than hiring for skills. Now, I love how one of my recent podcast guests, Shmuley Goldberg, put it. A great hire will be valuable. Almost doesn't matter where you put them. So let's dive in. I know it sounds strange, but unless you're hiring for a very, very specific skill set, then skill-oriented hiring isn't going to cut it. Now, you might be saying something like, Dr. D, that's crazy. But here's the thing. If you are scaling, especially as a small business owner, or founder, or a solopreneur who's taking that leap, the person you're hiring is probably going to be doing much, much more than the job you're hiring them to do. They're going to be wearing several hats, and they're going to be wearing those hats for a while. They'll probably be wearing them until you get big enough so that each person has their own role, or a role and a half. So as much as I don't like the idea of calling them generalists, it might be better to hire a generalist, not a good word, find a better one, than looking specifically for a specialist. Now, one of the things that we need to recognize is that even when we hire a specialist, there are specialists who are hyper-focused, and there are specialists who are coming in with a very specific skill set, but that skill set itself is part of the scalable process, and they can scale with us. They're not specialists, they're not generalists, they're specialists with a twist. And the best ones, they don't just stay in their skill set technical lane or their skill set specialized lane. They try and become strategic partners and co-create with you. They engage strategic followership. And one of the easiest things you can do when you're looking to hire is actually look for people who have that capacity, that curiosity, that problem solving, that strategic thinking and adaptability, and the we attitude. All those go a long way towards helping us get to a point of scalability with our hires. Now, I just want to make a point here about something. I'm not saying you don't need skills. You do. You need a list of skills. The person has to be able to fulfill certain roles. You need to set up roles, authority, and metrics as part of it. And the role includes certain skills. But when you're hiring, you should have a virtues, behaviors, values chart that goes along with your skill list. And that should be something you actually check back against later on, again and again and again, as part of your trust matrix and the way you have one-on-ones about how a person's working in terms of teamwork and other things. And you have to remember, if you can't hire someone who can work well with the team, you're going to find yourself micromanaging, or someone who can't step into their role through ownership. You're going to find yourself micromanaging, and that's going to create bottlenecks. But if you hire well, you should be able to step back, not lean in closer. And this is where agency and ownership come in. You know, when you talk to the person you are hiring, talking to them about what agency and ownership look like, defining success at the get-go allows your best hires to not have to wait for instructions. They can take ownership. It allows you to create the empowered operator. Empowered operator is someone who steps beyond their job description and acts like a stakeholder without stepping on other people's toes. They see themselves as strategic partners, and they act in strategic followership to co-create with you. Now, I'm not talking about someone who steps on other people's toes. That is one of the worst ingredients in the recipe for disaster. I am talking about someone who accepts clear boundaries of responsibility and authority with the multiple hats that they wear, but who also steps into that role fully. And when they do overstep, they're capable of having good conversations with their team members and with you about those boundaries in order to improve processes, in order to refine and clarify the boundaries on a role and the responsibilities that go along with the role and what ownership looks like. But this requires you to take a step back. Leadership has to take a shift from control to enablement. You have to be able to provide guidance and then let them run with it. Now, part of that is in the hiring process. You talk to them about this in the hiring process. It's something I've done, and it works wonders. Now, another thing I just want to slide in here with is, you know, we talk about productivity a lot. People talk about being productive, and having to get a certain amount of stuff done, and people who work overtime. People should be done with their day when they're done with their day and go home. People should be done with their day and be done. They shouldn't have to worry about it, or more importantly, I shouldn't have to worry about what they're doing and if they've done their job. When we hire people who are confident and capable of getting done what needs to get done, and they understand what impactful and important looks like, we won't need to talk to them late in the evenings. We won't have to worry as we reach Friday whether or not they've gotten done the stuff they needed to get done. They'll hold themselves to that higher level because they know that we trust that they're capable of it. And here's something which I actually learned from Shmuley, and I think it's very important. Because I always talked about, you know, some of the best hires being the people who would bring solutions instead of just bringing the problem. But the fact is that it's not the person who brings the solutions. It's the person who's already tried to solve the problem, especially when It is impactful and urgent. Now, I'm not saying if we have time to talk through or bring solutions, we shouldn't do that first. But Shmuley made a really good point on the podcast, which was that sometimes you just need to deal with the broken window. It's urgent, it's impactful, and if it doesn't get done now, who's taking ownership for it? So solving the problem first, and then talking about how maybe refining the solution should happen, that's a whole different ballgame. Now, it's really important that we remember that scaling isn't just about adding more people. You know, it's about creating the right culture as you hire people. You hire for the culture. You know, what you want more than anything else is to create a culture where people feel safe to come to you and say, problem solved. Not the best solution, but it's been solved. How you hire people, talking to them about vision, talking to them about the future, about where you want to go, that allows you as a leader from the get-go, from the hiring process, to direct and enable, or move, let me rephrase that, to move from directing to enabling. And the goal is to create a feedback loop where the employees, from the moment they step in, feel like they can take action and where they can express new ideas or explain where they see issues with ideas that already, with processes that already exist. So if we think about hiring for growth potential, it's not about their present skills. It's about how they present themselves as someone who can take agency and ownership, take initiative, prioritize efficiently and responsibly, understanding the difference between urgent, important, and impactful, and someone who understands and wants to help us move out of the everyday interaction into a more leadership directed role, giving us the space to focus on strategy. So what's one shift you could make in your hiring strategy today? What's one thing you could do that will change how you perceive hiring as you scale? Drop a comment below, and I'd love us to build smarter, scalable teams together. Now, to answer the riddle from before, I seem like the perfect fit, yet soon you'll see. Without direction, I drain energy. I wait for instructions. I need your commands. You hired for skills. I am full of demands. What am I? Is a visionless hire. Someone who wasn't hired for vision or with vision, who doesn't understand your vision and can't work with you. Thanks for taking time to listen to my insights on strategy, followership, and scaling smarter. Check out the Riddler newsletter. The link will be in the description for more on scaling strategically, leading with clarity, and creating a culture of followership. And if you found this video helpful, share it with a friend. See you next time. Thank you for joining us in the Doctor's Den. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hope to see you next time.